Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. We will wait for one more minute to let all the people in. Some still in the waiting room. Okay, I think, Marcella, we are fine. Then let's start. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our today's webinar that will provide you with an outlook on the upcoming 24 harvest with a focus on Ukraine and its importance to the European soybean market, as well as latest developments around the prices and premiums, especially of the non-GM sector. My name is Susanne Fromwald. I'm General Secretary of Donau Soja. Donau Soja, for those who don't know us, is a truly European organization working towards a protein transition in Europe by addressing the protein gap, especially in the EU, and working for a sustainable protein supply in Europe for Europe. Our head office is in Vienna, and we have regional offices both in Serbia and Ukraine, two of the main soy growing areas in Europe. As a first speaker, I would like to welcome today Bertalan Kruppa, our market analyst of Donau Soja and co-author of our monthly market report. He will give us information on soy area and output expectations in main producing countries in Europe and in total, main drivers of soy production in the region, and non-GM soy prices and premiums in the EU. And afterwards, my colleague Volodymyr Pugachov, Regional Director and Executive Director of our office in Ukraine, will give you more specific information about Ukraine as a soy producer #1 in Europe, and therefore its relevance for the European soy sector, Donau Soja's activities in Ukraine, especially in the frame of the Protein Partnership Program, and inform you about EUDR requirements within the Protein Partnership done by Donau Soja. But before we start, some technical comments. We ask you to write your questions in the chat. We will try to answer them one by one. And thanks for the questions that you've sent already beforehand to us. And regarding facts and figures, we will send you the presentations and also the recording in the coming days after the webinar. But now let's start. Please, Bertalan, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bertalan Kruppa, and I'm very happy to be here to present you that what's happened on the soya market, in the non-GM soya market in the recent weeks and months. So what I'm going to talk about, So I'm going to speak about 3 topics today. The first one is how much soybean was planted this season in Europe and in the EU. The second is what is our expectation for the harvest, for the upcoming harvest, which happens in this autumn. And in the last part of my presentation, I also touch on soya price issues. So first, let's look at the soya area in 2024. In total Europe, we have seen a very quick expansion over the last 4 years. And this season, it speeded up. And this year, we have seen a 14% increase if we look at the total Europe. If we see the EU, which is about 1/6 or 1/5, EU represents 1/6 or 1/5 of the area in Europe. We also seen an increase. This increase is about 8%. If we look at if we talking about the EU 27. What are the driving factors which supports this fast expansion in the continent? Over the recent years, mostly in the previous couple of years, there was a relatively good price of soybean, mostly when we compare to other crops such as maize, which is the main competitor of soybean. Soya is a less energy-intensive crop, and since the crisis in Ukraine and the COVID, there are still relatively high energy costs, and it is actually favorable for less energy-intensive crops such as soybean and other legumes. There was a rainy autumn in 2023, and that's why a lot of winter crops couldn't be planted. And on these areas, some soybean and some other spring crops could have been planted over the last spring. We have in the last year, soya had a very good yield in Europe and in the EU, and this experience also contributed to the expansion of soya in the region. There are favorable policies, mostly in the EU, which support protein crops such as soybean. And the last factors that I can present you is the long-term trends. For example, there is a growing demand for non-GM, sustainable and local raw materials in the agricultural sector, and that it also contributes to the fact that there is a higher value of European soybean production in the region. So let's see that what output can we expect this season. This area shows that what was the weather, what kind of weather anomalies were over the recent weeks. And we see that we have witnessed a very dry summer period, mostly from the 1st of July in the middle and in the eastern part of Europe. And actually it contributes to so it's negatively impacted the yields, for example, in Romania, in Austria, and it mostly actually in Romania, Hungary, and it's on the eastern side of Ukraine, and also in the Balkan, which is not visible on this map, which was published by the European Union. So what output can we expect in Europe? Despite of the expansion in area, we expect only a marginal increase in the output, as I said, because of the lower yields compared to last year. If we look at the EU, it is a similar situation this season. There was an expansion in area, we saw it, but actually because of the yields, the output is more or less stagnating in 2024. These are the biggest growing countries or regions in Europe. The first one is Ukraine, and we expect a 3% decrease in the output. We see an increase in Russia, a marginal growth in Europe, and because of the very severe dry and hot conditions in Serbia, there is a decrease in the output in Serbia. If we focus on the European countries, we see that there will be some expansion of soybean output in Italy, which is the biggest soya producers in the EU. And there is two interesting cases. It's Hungary and Slovakia. Actually, this season, there was a big soya area expansion in both countries. In Hungary, this expansion was so high as 88% in the area. And that's why there is an output increase in in Hungary and also in Slovakia. But we expect output decline in the other major soybean producers within the EU, such as France or Romania. And the last part of my presentation are the non-GMO soya prices in Europe. This presents the last 12 months. The green line shows the non-GM soybean prices in Italy, which is a benchmark price for the whole EU. And the gray line shows the CBOT prices. Actually, CBOT prices is the stock exchange in Chicago. This is the most important stock exchange in the global soybean market, and this represent the global soybean prices actually. And the green line, non-GM soybean prices are largely dependent on the global soybean prices, global GM soybean prices. That's why they are moving quite closely each other. And over the last 3 months, from May till August, there was very, very good prospects in the second biggest soybean producer of the world. It is the US, and that's why the global soybean prices was moving down, and it had an impact on the non-GM soybean prices in Italy and the EU as well. And from November till February, there was very good prospects in Brazil, which is the biggest soybean producers. So the prices were also moving down in this period. Yes, in general, we can say that over the recent months and years, there was very good soybean output expectations and results at the global markets, mostly in the US and Brazil. And these very good soybean output at the global market are putting a downward pressure on the non-GM soybean prices in the EU as well. This is the last 5 years, how the non-GM soybean price in Italy moved. We see that it is about 465 euros per ton at this moment. And it went up in the crisis time. So at this moment, it is lower than in the crisis time when the COVID and Ukraine was in our life, Ukrainian war, or the peak of it. And before this crisis time, this soybean price was lower. The 5-year average price of soybean price is actually a bit higher compared to what soybean price we can have now within the European Union. This was my presentation, and that's why now I give the floor back to Susanne. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bertalan, for this interesting insights about the actual situation on the soy market. I would like to hand over now to my colleague, Volodymyr Pugachov. He's today on a field day in Ukraine, and we have tested the connection before. It should be a good connection. Okay, I can see him. So Volodymyr, please give us some additional information.
Thank you, Susanne, and good afternoon to all participants. Yes, today we have a field day with one of our protein partners. And what is protein partnership, I will explain you a bit later in my presentation. Now I move to the car because it becomes a bit windy on the field, so actually it would be quite not so good to hear me. So yeah, let's start. I'm going to share my presentation now. I hope you can see it. I think yes. So as it was told, my name is Volodymyr Pugachov. I work at the Donau Soja office in Ukraine, and I have a dream. So my dream is that Ukrainian farmers are very well integrated in the European Union value chains, particularly soybean value chains, and also are leaders in innovative and sustainable technologies. And also with my team of Donau Soja Ukraine office, we are working very hard and close to fulfill this dream. Some information about our work in Ukraine. So Donau Soja office in Ukraine was established in 2018. We had a good period of working with our partners, promoting some practices. Clearly, after the war started in 2022, the priorities changed a bit. So firstly, clearly the main priority is safety to all team members of our company, of our organization, also to support resilience of farmers in Ukraine. and start clearly the process to reintegrate, to re-establish value chain, logistic chains after the Black Sea blockade and issues with logistics. So here in the timeline for 2022, you see also Ukrainian national stance. That was a great project where Donau Soja presented Ukrainian companies, certified companies, sustainable companies with the products, soya and other agricultural products on the main exchanges in the European Union. For the 2023, we had a great expansion of the protein partnership program in Ukraine with additional farmers, with additional volumes and areas. We also started the pilot projects with our farmers to ensure and to try how they can be compliant and how we prove that they are compliant with the EUDR regulation. And also we launched a farmer support project. This is a great project where we tried to compensate some costs for purchasing the original non-GM certified soya seeds to demonstrate how farmer can benefit when he uses great varieties, great genetics, and clearly better yields. Today is 2024, so our work is ongoing. At this moment, we have more than 1 million tons of soybeans, non-GM soybeans in Ukraine, covered by our protein partnership program. This is really huge volume. If you recalculate, if you compare, it means that 25% of overall non-GM soya production in Ukraine is covered by protein partnership program. We successfully implemented farmer support project, so meaning that farmers really understood, some farmers really understood that this is great to use original non-GM certified seeds, and they received benefits in the yield and in the economy of the farm. More to this, we also provided the strip tests so that they can assure that no contamination is happening and avoid and prevent this contamination. And also, this is relatively new project that started quite from this harvesting season. We trying to adopt European Union rules for Ukrainian farmers, as one day Ukraine will become a member of European Union, as the process of European integration is ongoing. So companies, farmers, industry would need to follow the European Union rules and requirements, which will be someday our internal legislation. And anyway, we started with some companies that already ready to implement these rules. And we are now going with a project for certifying of sustainable non-GM rapeseed in Ukraine, produced completely under the European Union rules, but also under the sustainable practices for the Renewable Energy Directive. Let's see. We hope for the best that at the end of the season we will have this one. Okay, let's now go for the framework of soya industry in Ukraine, because as my colleague Bertalan previously mentioned, Ukraine is really important and #1 producer in Europe of soybeans. But then you might ask a question, so why you need such big amount of soybeans? Here is very easy answer. Ukraine is self-sufficient in agricultural products, including soybeans, and in food products. Ukraine is one of not so many countries in the world that really produces all amount of agricultural and food products that is really necessary for internal consumption. But that's why another issue appears, or another factor appears, that Ukrainian industry is highly export-oriented. So under normal circumstances, Ukraine produces 3 or 4 times more than it consumes internally. And to keep this business efficient, to keep the farming efficient, to keep people in the rural areas, to give them work, Ukraine needs to produce this amount of goods, and that's why Ukraine needs to export. So the main countries for soybeans for Ukrainian export are European Union. This is clear. This is our #1 trade partner that is neighboring quite closely to Ukraine, but also other countries like Turkey, like Egypt, and all these 3 destinations, they account more than 90% of total soya deliveries from Ukraine. So that's why we are talking about adoption of European Union rules and also European Union integration of Ukraine. And what Donau Soja is doing in this relation. So we can divide it activities into three big directions. First one, this is Donau Soja Academy. I will explain it a bit later. Second one, this is bridge building between the European Union and Ukraine. I mentioned some of the activities like Ukrainian national stands, where the bridges were built and the companies begin to communicate, people get to know each other, and there are now really successful and very happy cases of soya value chains. And also the activities related to the European Union integration. There is something that should be done on the legislative level. There are governments, there are parliament, it's a kind of work. We work with farmers, we work on the ground, so we can really start to implement some practical things already now. So Donau Soja Academy is a great tool that we use in Ukraine, in Moldova, and in other countries where Donau Soja is present to educate farmers and to bring knowledge to them, and also to bring technologies, to bring awareness, and to start some discussions, maybe sometimes on quite hard topics, that will lead to great sustainable solutions. So the primary focus of the academy is to improve the agronomical techniques, the knowledge, agronomical knowledge of the protein crops, soybeans, and other legumes. We conduct these activities in our major soya producing countries, which includes trainings, field days, webinars. So, for example, my team today is present on the field day of our partner. We organized some master classes, and actually this is everything under the umbrella of Donau Soja Academy. And I need to mention that these activities is supported by the Protein Partnership Program of Donau Soja and Austrian Development Agency. In 2020, as a response to COVID, we in Ukraine started the Soya Discussion Club. So this is the online club with broadcasting to major social medias where experts in soybean area in Ukraine discuss the major issues for this season, how to prevent these issues or how to overcome these issues, what can be the recommendations, etc., etc., etc. So clearly in 2020, when COVID started, we can't afford for ourselves to have physical meetings. We started these online meetings, but our general idea was always to go offline with these meetings, and finally we did it. 2023, 2024, we started the Soya Discussion Club in the format of master classes during the field days of the partners. You can see these marvelous photos from different regions of Ukraine. And clearly today was actually the day where Soya Discussion Club was offline, and people are really, really, really excited with this. Another really big issue and topic, not only in Ukraine, but I think for the whole world, is the climate change. But as I'm focusing particularly for Ukraine, you can see on the picture very prominent example of what's happening with the climate in Ukraine. So there is usually 3 agriclimatic zones like Polessia, forest steppe zone, and steppe zone, that each of them has different indications of rainfalls, different indications of temperatures, different indications of winter temperatures, etc., etc. And as you can see, for the last 30 years, from 1990 till 2020, the steppe zone moved really to the north, mostly for 200 or even 250 kilometers. What does it mean for the farmers? It means very easy. For farmers living in the steppe zone of Ukraine, it means less rains, more dry seasons, and more risks in agricultural production. But also for the farmers on the north side of Ukraine, this means that they can switch the traditional crop rotation. They can add soybeans, they can add other crops that really need more warm and rainy conditions. But the main question, how the farmer can follow this? how the farmer can understand what to do and how to react to the climate change, how to adapt himself to the climate change. And we did really a great study with scientists, with scientific agricultural institutions, and also with Meteorological Center of Ukraine. So we published last year the Agri-Climatic Atlas for soya cultivation in Ukraine that provides really great information and comprehensive information on the climate changes in Ukraine, which zones becomes what, how farmers can be informed and make really well-informed decisions about what varieties to select, what technology to use, how to deal with the production on the farm, particularly for soybeans. I was mentioning several times Protein Partnership Program of Donau Soja that we are implementing in Ukraine. Actually, this is a very, very, very great program that enables agricultural producers to prove that they're compliant with European Union sustainability rules, with European Union general requirements of free. So what this program guarantees that partners are deforestation and conversion free with cutoff date 2008. The program guarantees non-GM quality of soybeans. The program guarantees legality of production, and also the program guarantees that these soybean lots are traceable and segregated from others. You can see on this slide the sponsors of the Protein Partnership Program. So mainly this is companies that participate in the soya value chain, but are not able to buy or to bring soybeans by themselves. So mainly this is retailers. And as I told, we are active in 5 countries. We have quite big amount of partners. And now I'm starting to talk about Ukraine. As I told, for the last 2 years, the program covered over 1 million tons of non-GM soybeans. And also, as the program in Ukraine requires farms inspections on the ground, actually starting from the field, this enabled us to start a pilot project for EUDR compliance last year, 2023. So we understood that it would be really hard regulation, that it would be not so easy for the companies to comply, that we can make mistakes. So we started with the pilot project last year, so that for 2024, companies are fully ready and we also ready. I think that you all know what is European deforestation regulation and what the requirements are. I will only maybe point out some impacts on the supply chain. So clearly, the traditional business models with spot buying of soybeans are quite under threat under the EUDR regulation, because you need to be sure from whom you buy, you need to have documents, you need to have some approval documents, you need to have geolocations, etc., etc. So sometimes it's not easy or not possible for classical value chains. So generally, that's why I told that in 2023, we understood that the compliance with the regulation would not be so easy, because sometimes it needs even to transformation of the classical business model or business chain. Some key features of the regulation, I will indicate them one more time. So the companies that import soybeans in the EU, or the companies, if to talk under the legal definitions, the companies first placing soybeans on the EU market, they need to have the following documents from the suppliers, like geolocations of the plots of productions, confirmation of absence of deforestation on these fields, cutoff date 2020, traceability each plot of soybeans or soya processed products directly to the field where it was grown, confirmation of the legality of production, clearly country and cultivation and harvest date. So the main idea is to ensure deforestation-free supply chains in the European Union. And as you see, the regulation covers not only soybeans as a raw product, but also soybean flour, soybean oil, and soybean meal. Quite complex. So what we did in 2023 and what learnings did we have? We started to monitor changes in the land use and deforestation of our partners under the Protein Partnership Program. So for areas of harvest 2023, we collected geolocations during the farm audits. We did a remote sensing using satellites Landsat 5 and Sentinel-2 with really high resolution photos. We surveyed approximately 250,000 hectares of non-GM sustainable soybeans in Ukraine. So all areas where soybeans of protein partners are grown in Ukraine. And we did some learnings for ourselves. Clearly that there were some learnings and improvements for the process of 2024. So the 2024 season, we started well prepared, and partners are well prepared and assured that everything would be okay. So what we did, we collected the geodata, and now we started the remote sensing. At the final end, what is the aim of our activity? So what will the partners get, protein partners get, and also the buyers of protein partnership soybeans, what will they get? So we expect that we will finish all our activities under the Protein Partnership Program somewhere in November 2024. So usually with the end of the harvest. And our certified partners, protein partners, they will be able to provide the following documents, like the geolocations of the soya field in our Donau Soja internal traceability system, with also the possibility to convert in GeoJSON format, the one that European Commission now accepts, and you can import in the due diligence IT portal. Also, land use verification of the fields, soya production fields 2024, based on the satellite images analysis, proof of legality via the inspection checklist for audits, and clearly Donau Soja and Europe Soya certificates. Also, we are monitoring what partners and other organizations are doing. So I think on the 20th of August, the International Trade Center of United Nations and WTO published a checklist for different EUDR tools that exist on the market, so that companies, that farmers can make the informative choice and understand if these EUDR tools can support them in be EUDR compliant, yes or no, and what is the necessary essential criteria. So we went with these activities also via this checklist, and for essential criteria, everything is ticked. So that's true. That what we do is really at the final end will ensure the possibility of forming a due diligence declaration by the European Union importers of Ukrainian soybeans under the Protein Partnership Program, and also soybean or oil if they produced in Ukraine under the Protein Partnership Program. This is the business side activities, what we can do on the ground with the knowledge and regulations that are already exist. We also active with the Ukrainian Ministry of Agriculture. And today, for example, we had a press conference with our Deputy Minister of Agrarian Policy and Food of Ukraine, Mr. Vitaly Golomya. So he informed and confirmed and one more time pointed that Donau Soja is a member of several working groups on the topic of EUDR, working groups inside the ministry, because the general final idea of the ministry is to form some kind of national solution, how companies can do this in a cheap, easy way based on the current different documents that already exist in the country under the regulation. So we are also participating in these activities and sometimes even leading these activities. Beyond EUDR, that's not the only things that we are doing, and the Protein Partnership Program is can guarantee and bring you way more. So clearly that companies in Ukraine, when they start to understand the requirements of the European Union, they're trying to follow and see forward. And here we also have some solutions how to support them, for example, under the PSRD regulation, or any other regulations. On the example of carbon reduction, in 2021, at the final quarter of 2021, it was done a great study by Blond consultants calculating carbon footprint per kilogram of soybeans in different countries. I mean kilogram of soybeans of Donau Soja or Europe Soya certified soybeans, and comparing them with just ordinary soybeans. The results you can see on the screen. So this is really the reduction of carbon footprint, which can be beneficial for the reporting under the CSRD requirements in 2026 with data of 2025. Some farmers already know and understand this, but anyway, when the importers, when the regulations will be more closer to the impact date, we already have something to support not only farmers, but general European value chain. And actually, this is all. Thank you, and I'm very much appreciate your questions. Thank you.